So, welcome to Historic Pub Crawls, Does Ireland. We have landed in Dublin on our route to Galway with a quick stop off at the world's oldest pub, Sean's Bar, on the way.
Hi, how are you guys? My name is Ryan. I work here in Sean's Bar here in Athlone. Obviously, as you can see from the sign just above our heads here, we are listed officially as Ireland's oldest pub. The pub here.
Yeah.
Very hardcore fan base around here. So as you can see from the sign above our heads, obviously we are listed in the Guinness World Book of Records, and you'll see the original establishment's name that was built here in the year 900. It was known as Lewin's Inn. Before there was a pub, before there was a town, and before there was even a castle across the road there was nothing here. There was what was called the Ford of Great Antiquity, and the Ford of Great Antiquity was basically a crossing point that helped people cross that river just out the back of the pub there. Now that is the River Shannon. Lewin ran that crossing point specifically for people like yourselves, people that were travelling the country. The reason why the inn was built is because it was the biggest crossing point in the country. You might have had anywhere between 1,000 or 2,000 people on a weekly basis that would come through here.
Right.
And then over the years, as the settlement started to build up, they adopted the name of the man that built the inn. So you'll notice that Athlone in Irish is actually known as Athlone. So Athlone translates into the place of Lewin or the ford of Lewin. Okay, so you have Ireland's oldest pub, you basically have the town that was built around that pub, and then you basically have the town that was named after the bartender. Now, another thing is about the castle across the road. Now, I don't know if you've been into the castle?
No, we landed about an hour and a half ago,
Okay.
jumped into our hire car and came straight here to come to you guys.
That's the first option always be a pub, no matter
It's
where you're
always a
going
pub, right? That's the first thing.
But the castle across the road, everyone assumes that the town of Athlone is built around the castles. Most towns in Ireland are built around castles or cathedrals or forts or something like that. But the castle here wasn't actually built until 1129. So I've always told people that they built a castle to defend the pub.
Defend the pub.
Exactly, because there was very little else worth defending here at the time. But the original castle that was built here, as again, it was built in 1129. It was built by one of the last High Kings of Ireland. His name was Turlough O'Connor. Now, it happens to be one of the first wooden castles ever been built in Ireland. Strangely enough, it didn't last very long. It was actually struck by lightning and it burnt to ash. So the current build of a castle was built by the British shortly after the invasion of 1169, so we don't talk about that too much. So you take a walk in through the pub, guys?
Let's go have a look.
I suppose the first thing you notice when you come in through the front door is you'll notice the fire. Well, first of all, you notice all the people, but you'll notice the open fireplace here, and you get the aroma of burning wood or burning turf, which is a very old Irish tradition. It's very, very hard to get an open fireplace in old Irish pubs these days. It's kind of a tradition that's kind of burning out a little bit, but we keep that fire going as much as we can throughout the year. Obviously, coming into the summertime, it's not really needed as much. But on a day like today, when it's a bit chilly outside, it's just nice to have it going, you know.
You've done a good job of holding up the ceilings here.
Yeah, I believe there was an incident about 40 or 50 years ago where there was a gentleman upstairs, and I believe he was doing some sort of renovations of the apartments that used to be up the stairs. And I believe he might have been a fairly hefty man, and I think he came through the ceiling.
Wow, okay.
And the resulting repairs led to the poles that we now have here, which get swung out of every weekend, unfortunately. So obviously you notice the name Sean's Bar.
Yeah.
So everyone asks who is Sean or where is Sean. Now unfortunately we don't have a Sean anymore. Sean died about 18 years ago. But we've had two Seans. The first Sean was the gentleman just over here. So the man with the black tie just behind that young lady there, his name was Sean O'Brien. He was the proprietor of the pub in 1950. Prior to that, the pub was owned by a family called the Donnellys. They bought it, it was called Donnellys of the Hollow at the time. And Sean was the first man to buy it and call it Sean's Bar. He then in turn sold it to this gentleman over here. So that gentleman there is Sean Fitzsimons. He is pretty much the Sean. He's the man that brought this pub up to the standard of what it is today. Now he bought the pub in 1970. Now he bought it as a bit of a joke. He was actually sitting at the end of the bar here one day, and a friend of his basically said to him, he said, Sean, you realise if you were to buy the pub, you wouldn't even have to change the name, because your name is already Sean. He had the pub from 1970 to 1999, and he sold it on to another gentleman that still works here on occasion. Timmy is his name. Believe it or not, as silly as this sounds, this is actually a quiet Saturday evening. It's done too much in England as it is over here or anywhere in the UK, but Sawdust is a very big tradition in old Irish pubs.
We don't have so much blood to wipe off the floors in the pubs.
Well, I don't think we've wiped up much blood lately ourselves, but I'm sure going back in history it was a possibility. You'll see it over here when we go down this side. You'll notice as we walk down the pub, the floor starts to slant. Now, don't worry, the more than you have, the straighter that will get. I promise you that, okay? But it's part of the original drainage system of the pub. So when you go back 100, 200, 400, 500 years ago, you'll notice that we're already at the position at the bottom of the hill. So when that river refers to banks, the river water would flow to the street, and they'll come straight into the front door and flood the pub.
And it comes straight through the pump.
Exactly.
And straight out the back.
Exactly. So that was the idea of slanting the floor towards the river to guide the water out to the pub. And after the water gone out of the pub, they'll put sawdust on the floor to soak up all the water. The same concept as in a butcher shop, or if we have a fight later on and so one of us spills blood. The original structure that was built here in 900, the majority of it was either taken down or was built over. So just behind you in that glass case is how we've established how old we actually are. It proves who we are. It proves what we are, what we say we are. So that bit of material was found here in 1970 by that man Sean Fitzsimons, and it has been officially dated back to the year 900. Obviously, you have our Guinness World Record cert here as well on the right-hand side. That was issued in 27th of June 2000 to Sean Fitzsimons to verify that we are officially Ireland's oldest pub. I think that certificate took about 30 years to get.
Where do you sit in the world's oldest pubs?
So I'll put it this way: we are officially Ireland's oldest pub. We're officially Europe's oldest working pub, and we're internationally recognised as the world's oldest pub. Okay. If you can find a pub that's older than us, let me know, because I promise you there is not one of them.
The oldest pub was always going to be here or England, right?
CNN, or a subsidiary of CNN, about 10 years ago, did I think it was 4 pubs between England and Ireland. The trip to they were trying to figure out what the world's oldest pub was.
Yeah.
And I believe it was here, the trip to Jerusalem, some pub in London.
And a lot of them are haunted, or at least say that they're haunted.
Yeah. Now,
You know, with these old ones, there's always some kind of ghost tale.
yeah. Now, I'm not a big practitioner of the supernatural, but there's some things that have happened in this pub since I've been here over the last few years that I just can't explain. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there's some very freaky things that happen here, especially after hours when there's no lights turned on.
So we won't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
No, exactly. So obviously this is probably one of the biggest talking points in the pub. So this is obviously part of the original wall that was built here in 900. When that was excavated from the walls down below here, it was carbon dated back to the year 900. So again, it shows that we are who we say we are. Like, this bit of material is 1,125 years old.
We're going to try and work our way into this pub down the slope. It's definitely strange, isn't it?
I suppose the next major attraction, or the next major eye catcher in the pub, is you'll notice that we have a few cases of mostly American police patches.
Yep.
It started in 1988. There was a conference in Athlone between the Irish police and the American police, and there was about 600 American officers came over here, and they had a conference in one of the local hotels. It's called the Shamrock Lodge. Basically, on day 1 of the conference, they had their conference. They came down here for pints. Everyone had a good night. Day 2 of the conference, there was no conference, and day 3 of the conference, there was no conference. They basically spent 3 days down here drinking and smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey. And any bit of official business or paperwork that needed to be done was done over a pint of Guinness, a shot of whiskey, and probably a cigarette as well. So I believe it was 22 officers left patches belonging to themselves behind, and over the years it's just grown and grown and grown and grown. You know, it's a mark of respect, I believe.
Yes.
Now, we used to have a little bit more decoration, I would call it. So the roof here used to be covered in dollar notes or foreign notes from different countries. But I think we decided to take them down about 2 or 3 years ago because it was getting very overwhelming. The entire roof was covered.
It's probably too much. This is nice. You've got these old fishing rods. It's pretty cute.
Like the pub is a very big, obviously the River Shannon over here is a very big fishing tradition.
It feels really low, by the way. I can feel the slope now.
Yeah.
It's quite a slope.
It's quite an incline.
It is quite.
Imagine after 5 or 6 more of them, how straight that'll feel.
Yeah, you definitely lose your balance.
Oh, 100%. I've fallen down myself a few times. We won't talk about that though.
Thanks very much.
No hassle at all. Have a good evening, right? No worries. Thanks very much.
Oh, I like this little snug. This is cute.
Yeah, so obviously every pub has its own little nooks and crannies. Now this is one of my favourite spots to sit out and have a drink when there's no one else around. Unfortunately, these lovely ladies.
Yeah, I bet you it's great.
It's out of eyesight as well, you know.
He's down. Okay.
You're all right, guys. Work away. Don't worry.
Go for it.
Don't worry. We won't sell it. Don't worry. Obviously, in here, this is what we would have called the Snug years ago. Now, we call it the TV room, but you might notice that there's no TV in here. We traditionally don't really have TVs in the pub. Now we do have a pull-down screen at the back just to show the Irish rugby. Other than that, we don't show any sports. We don't do football. We don't do the GA. We don't do any of that. It's a very nice little area in here. Again, if you're sitting down for a few quiet drinks.
Sorry, it's a different mood in here.
Exactly, and you've got a few ads from old businesses from the town of Athlone here on the right hand side. So this is our wall of fame.
Okay.
So you'll spot a few celebrities. So you've got Rory from Mrs. Brown's Boys. You've got Alf from Home and Away. John C. Reilly here.
Alf from Home and Away.
Yeah, you've got John C. Reilly here. Timmy here, the gentleman I was telling you about. Them he used to own the pub. You wouldn't know who you find on the walls in here.
Oh yeah, this is like a TARDIS, isn't it?
Exactly. So this area out here is this area out here is our indoor beer garden. this was all redone in the last 4 or 5 years. So during the COVID period, because we were closed for about 18 months, they decided to redo everything out here. So there used to actually be a big lighthouse there in the middle of the pub, and the stairs used to come out the way. Now I'll bring you upstairs in a second and show you what we call the boathouse. But this at the weekend is where all the magic happens. On a Friday or Saturday night, you get anywhere between 2 or 3 or 400 people here. Now there's quite a lot of people here at the moment. Times that by 4 or 5. It's and obviously we'll have a DJ out the back over there as well.
This is cute. It's like a little because we were saying when we came into Athlone, like it's gorgeous with the painted, like all the painted houses.
Yeah.
Like, even there's like a little Lebanese restaurant that's like painted green and red. Like it's gorgeous.
Yeah. It's a lovely spot, Almanza.
So nice.
Just a bit of a shop front.
Yeah, it's really cute.
It's to add to the pub vibe, add to the pub atmosphere. It's part of the renovations that we've done here in the last 4 or 5 years, and like we do a lot of. I know it's not really a big tradition in the UK, but over here, the day 2 of an Irish wedding is a very big tradition.
Okay.
Right. We don't just do one day.
Is that just to get rid of your hangover? Or is you just carry on drinking so that you don't get a hangover?
The trick is don't stop. The trick is don't stop. Yeah. So we do a lot of day 2s of weddings here. So if you're getting married in town or if you're getting married out the road, you can come here for the next day. You know, have some sort of a barbecue or sit down, have a few drinks with the family, and then go off about your business afterwards. But I'll bring you upstairs and I'll show you what used to be Sean's old apartment. It is now called the Boathouse, and we've renovated it over the last few years. It's now our function room. So again, this will be the site of some day 2s of weddings. I believe a couple actually got married here about 3 years ago. So this, believe it or not, used to actually be Sean's old apartment. So he lived up here for, I think, 10 or 15 years towards the end of his life. Like the idea behind making it a bar was to kind of pay homage to him. Because he owned this pub for so long and he did so much for it, we didn't see the point in, like there was no point in renting out the apartment again or keeping it going. So it was changed into a bar, I think, sometime in the early 2000s, and then it's been renovated here in the last 4 or 5 years.
I imagine it's a little old apartment. If before you had the roof and stuff, you'd get like a little view down there and everything.
But that was the idea behind turning this into a bar. It was just to kind of pay homage to him. Now you notice the little bit of the images on the wallpaper. So it's supposed to be a reenactment of the way barrels of whiskey and kegs of Guinness would have been delivered up until a certain point in history until they switched over to diesel trucks and things like that. Sean used to own an old barge. It's actually the barge that's been used in that picture there. So it's called the Iron Lung. Now, him and his wife had bought it. That's part of the reason why they moved to Athlone in the first place. And they converted that into a little holiday home for themselves. I believe his nephew Andy still has it out in the river there somewhere now. It's probably a bit further upstream than it is here. So we have our own whiskey brand for the last 10 or 12 years, I believe. Timmy was the gentleman, again, the gentleman in that picture there. He was very big orchestrated, part of the orchestration of that. Basically, he had done a lot of research in his spare time during the time that he owned the pub. And a lot of the reasons why he got into this is because there's always been this debate between the Irish and the Scottish over who invented whiskey. Obviously, we say we did, they say they did. Then you'll come across some poor confused soul from the likes of like Kentucky who believes they invented whiskey a few hundred years ago. But it's now believed that it's very possible that it was actually the monks that lived in Clonmacnoise. So it's an old monastery about 25 minutes from here.
Okay.
It's believed that it might have been the monks that lived there that accidentally invented whiskey sometime in the early thousands. They were actually trying to distill perfume of all things.
And then decided to drink it.
Something like that. Something like that. So how they came to do that is, I suppose, when the monks that lived there, they would go on their missions. You know, they would go to England, anywhere there was pagans that they believed were pagans. They would go to England, you know, Scandinavia, anywhere, Germany, and some of them probably made it as far as Africa. But Spain is predominantly the place where I go to tell the story. Spain was predominantly a Muslim country at the time, and you had a lot of Muslim traders there that were known as the Moors, and the Irish monks became very friendly with the Moors, and the Moors gave them different raw materials, silks and spices, things they never heard or seen it before. Then they gave them perfume, and they taught them how to distill the perfume, because the process of distillation did not start off as an alcoholic beverage. It started off with perfumes and fragrances. Okay. You know, in Persia, they would use it to create rose water and rose oil and different things. So they brought that art to Europe, and they taught the Europeans how to do it. And the Irish monks brought it back to Ireland, and they tried to copy that method, for better or for worse. They ended up with a golden substance that they considered perfume. So they would get up for their 7 a.m. mass, and they would go about their day. I promise you this, if I showed up in here smelling like that, I know where I would be sent very, very quickly, right? But as you said, somewhere along the lines, supposedly what happened was one of these monks had the great idea, looking at this bottle of perfume. Jesus, if it smells this nice, maybe the taste is going to be better. That man probably opened up his bottle of perfume and over the course of the day started to indulge. And as that day went on, that man got progressively worse. But they quickly realized they were onto something. They were onto a winner. First of all, they could get them drunk. They knew it made them feel closer to God. And they thought it had highly medicinal purposes, which it does to a certain degree, but not in the quantities that they were drinking it in. But they knew they could make money off it as well. And the Irish monks loved to make gold and silver so they could build their churches and have their crosses made. So it was renamed and it was repurposed and they started selling it. So it's a very delicate word. I actually really enjoyed this phrase. Ishka Baha. And that translates directly into the water of life. Now, I'm going to put it to you this way, and it'll make a lot of sense if you think about it this way. You had a load of Irish people in the early thousands running around with bottles of whiskey, calling it the water of life. Do you see where it all went wrong? They say that God created whiskey to stop the Irish from ruling the world. So I've drawn a fine line recently between the invention of whiskey sometime in the early thousands and then the swift conquering of Ireland by the British in 1169. I think it's highly possible that we were far too drunk to defend ourselves.
Yeah, we basically just walked in and everyone went, yeah, come on, do you want to share one of these with us? Yeah, all right.
Look, I'm not an educated historian, but I think it's a possibility. It's probably something we need to look into.
Well, you've given us an amazing tour of the place. There's obviously loads more that we can talk about.
Oh, there's so much more. So here on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, we could do anywhere between 80 and 120 tour buses a week, right? And with most of these tour buses, obviously it's all pre-arranged. Myself or Timmy or one of the other staff, we do a pre-arranged history talk with our guests, along with an Irish coffee or a Bailey's coffee or a pint of Guinness or one of our whiskies. We've recently started doing Irish coffee masterclasses, where we'll sit down with a group of people and show them how to construct an Irish coffee and go through the history of that with them, and hopefully everyone will enjoy a nice creamy Irish coffee afterwards.
We better get back to the bar and get ourselves a drink before we head off into Galway. That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
No hassle,
Really
no
enjoyed
worries
that.
at all.
That's amazing.
No worries.